The greatest negative roles in literature have been the ones that have questioned God himself. Satan in Paradise Lost, in really Lucifer, the greatest of God's angels, had the balls really to argue with the main man. It's a big thing to play the main bad guy, right? I do have 10 heads at points, which is really one of the cool things.
Saif, we're thrilled to have you here. And of course, this session is titled The Joy of Being Bad. So you've been making movies for 28 years now. You have 74 credits as an actor on IMDb. And unscientific survey, but I think your filmography has the most gray, morally compromised, outright negative characters of any A-list Bollywood star. Now, okay. I think I was just going through your films and I would figure the starting point was perhaps Rahul in Kya Kehna, 2000.
Right. Yeah.
Right? This is a character who gets his girlfriend pregnant, but when her parents suggest marriage, he says, कितनी सारी लड़कियों के साथ मेरी दोस्ती है, मैं सबसे शादी करता फिरूंगा.
Right.
Which seemed to me like some slightly Ranjitish dialogue from the 80s, but here you are saying it. Turning point for you and for Hindi cinema, Dil Chahta Hai comes in 2001. You're a massive hit playing these urbane romantic leads, also in films like Kal Ho Na Ho in 2003. But in 2004, you're playing the sinister Karan Rathore in Ek Hasina Thi. In 2005, you're a damaged soul who's also a murderer in Being Cyrus. And then in 2006, of course, you break all rules as Langda Tyagi in Omkara. Following that, then, of course, there's the Race franchise, there's Rangoon, Bazaar, Laal Kaptaan, Tanhaji. Coming up is Adipur, in which you play the ultimate villain, Lankesh or Raavan. Saif, here's my thesis about you, and please tell me whether you agree or not. The hard truth is that you did not achieve the superstardom, that kind of completely over-the-top blazing success that the Khan Trinity did, Shahrukh, Salman, Aamir. But my argument is that, in fact, that was a really good thing because it allowed you the freedom to experiment, it gave you the freedom to fail, and it gave you the freedom to forge your own path as an actor, which, in fact, is far more interesting. Would you agree with this?
I mean, short answer, yes, absolutely. I completely agree with that. It kind of encourages me to also, I have to say that, these guys, Shahrukh, Salman and Aamir, were kind of born somehow to be actors. And I think it must have been a childhood ambition with certainly I know for two of them, I'm not sure if it was Salman's ambition anyway, but he was certainly built for it and made for it and the kind of success he saw. And I joined movies at a time where, you've got to aim to either be a superstar or not bother really. Because and that there's a point there. I wonder why, because it wasn't really about nuance. It wasn't about interesting characters or different kinds of people. All that's happened now. So yes, you're right. But that's also probably because I've become more interested in acting and have probably understood it a bit better. And I'm a bit better at it. And it just leads me to say that, first of all, everyone should be hopeful because anyone can make it anytime. There is no definite path. So for me, I think, yes, films have also changed. You're being offered complex roles, complex parts, and it's possible to make a wonderful living and a, lucrative living and that can support a, fairly lovely lifestyle. If I was like cute and fun and in a lot of movies. And I did a lot of work with Akshay Kumar, who perhaps lacked at that point cute and fun. So we made a kind of super person, and found our way in the industry.
You completed him.
Sorry?
You completed him.
I completed him and he completed me. And I think that's why we're both very fond of each other till today. I think we realize we owe each other that in a sense. So that's what it is. And actually, you've hit the nail on the head. It is about completing yourself, actually. And if you need someone else to do it, great. And usually a solo successful superstar like these guys don't need someone to complete them. That's it.
Seth, do you remember the first time you felt that you had the freedom in your own head, not whether it was outside or not, but in your own head, you felt that as an actor, I can go wherever this character will take me. I'm not going to worry about how I look, what the image is. When did you have that first impulse?
I'm not exactly sure. I guess one kind of did that in Omkara, and there have been trailers. So the crux of your answer, the way to answer that is like, presumably people are listening to this, hopefully they gain something from it as well, which is that the truth is quite difficult to get at, sometimes. There's so many distractions in life. And then it doesn't help that we're clouded by our own insecurities and fears. And, like at one point someone said, don't get a haircut. I had that same ridiculous haircut for so many years because they said, well, it's lucky, some things work. Don't change anything. So we're steeped in superstition, at least. We've got to really work our way towards getting to any part that's brave. I don't know when it happened. So it happened in Omkara, then I forgot about it again. I think after a couple of failures, I might have said something like, look, I don't know whether this is working or not. And you kind of lose, you have to not be scared, and you have to not be vain, and you've got to be really connected. And either that can come from a state of complete security, or it can come from a state of just, got nothing to lose. So it might have been a combination of both for me. So I don't know when it happened, but at some point I realized that if this career is not going to work out, let it not work out because I made interesting choices, and let me try and be a good actor and learn. And suddenly I discovered that that's the place to be. And it's kind of almost an instinctive thing, which, because then that's what the job's about, really. And I'm just scratching on the surface. I wish I'd realized this like a long time ago. But I don't know exactly when it happened. I think it came a point when I said, listen, things aren't really working. So let me just enjoy it, rather than chasing money and stardom by doing Love Ajkal 2 or, whatever. Let me just do Kalakandi and let me do some, fun things and reinvent. And it doesn't really matter. So if you get to a point where you're not scared of failure, and you're not scared of, and you say it's fine. I've got enough, and let me just play this part, and let me look terrible because that's what it needs, and let me not be vain, and let me disappear into it, and then you realize, like a epiphany, the meaning of being an actor in movies, and the freedom it gives you, and the joy it gives you.
Tell me, would you say that playing these gray, morally compromised characters, so in a sense, it's also sort of enlarged your kind of toolbox as an actor?
Well, yeah, it's literally like that. You are a technician ultimately, and you're sort of an emotional technician, really, and you've got to kind of figure out how to do these various things. And playing some of these larger than life guys, like Laal Kaptaan, which didn't really work, but it had so much makeup, and actually the core of that character was something so wild and strong that the sound recordist on the set, he said, listen, you're not sounding like the character at all. Okay, so I'll tell you, whatever. This character is referred to as the hunter. He's part wolf, part animal, whatever. And we all come from Bombay, and, we've been on and outdoor, and we suddenly jumped into this movie with not the right kind of prep. This film was like Revenant in a way. That sounds stupid to say, but Deepak Dobriyal said, this is our version, and he really gave himself to that part. And after a few days and weeks and stuff of sitting alone, for a long time we were alone in Rajasthan, kind of suddenly started sounding like this guy and becoming like this guy. And when you do that, then something changes and you do grow. So I became capable of like acting in, something like playing Raavan or playing Tanhaji, whatever. There are certain roles that a lot of Indian history, mythology has a certain wildness and power. We don't have a Shakespearean background, but we have a requirement for an actor to be strong and bombastic and, have animal eyes and kind of a voice and all that stuff, which of course, having done a slew of romantic comedies hasn't really trained me. And of course, it's completely untrained generally. So you have to figure it out yourself. But yeah.
What insight do you have into these bad guys after playing so many of
When
them?
you're playing bad guys, I've usually never been slotted very well because I don't think I've ever really been a commercial type or a conventional type, either. And even if I physically have managed to look a conventional type, then mentally I'm not a conventional type. So I don't understand where I've really fitted in. But I normally played roles that the camera is not supporting you. So if you impress the audience, it's a battle because people are not like when you're playing a Sartaj Singh or playing a nice guy, the whole scene is engineered to help you. You just have to basically sometimes stand there and kind of look little puppy dog, and the music plays, and and you've given all your money to the beggar, and so and so is dying, and it's not very difficult compared to charming the audience by being wicked. Ideally, the kind of role, actually, again, without getting into funda, I remember reading this lovely Aristotle wrote a book called Poetics. He's lost, his notes are there, where he talks about tragedy and comedy and about the most effective type of story. And it's a great little pamphlet on drama, because obviously Greek theater was it. I mean, they went beyond. I mean, Oedipus and all this kind of stuff. Anyway, he said that the most effective story is, and I must say the word catharsis comes from him, but he said, if you have a gray character that you don't know if he's going to be good or bad, and you put a lot of pressure on him, and he looks like he could go bad, but in the end, he becomes good. That's the best kind of story you could have about morality. And I completely agree. Sometimes we end up playing darker roles for various reasons. They think it's exciting casting, to take a guy and just put him in a negative role. Or unfortunately, sometimes your career isn't doing that well. So he's doing negative roles now. But that's not the way it should be. There's obviously corruption everywhere. But ideally, a negative role can be very interesting. And the greatest negative roles in literature have been the ones that have questioned God himself. Again, Satan in Paradise Lost. In like really Lucifer, the greatest of God's angels, had the balls really to argue with the main man and to say, I don't agree with you. You question the status quo, you question the provenance of everything you're being told. You say, no, I don't think so. Like Robert De Niro in Heat was where the negative role is going, because it's very simplistic to just say good guy, bad guy. It's lovely to play the hero. And superstars are brilliant. They get to play such lovely parts. But if they wrote, because when times change and the bad guy becomes a little more relatable than this holier than thou kind of angel, because there's good and bad in all of us. So that's the story. That's my favorite part, where it's a gray guy, and it turns out that he's not so bad. Like Clint Eastwood in the dollar movies and Sergio Leone's idea of a hero.
Right.
There's
an air of mystery about the morals as well.
Yeah, you don't know. He's just better than a lot of people, but he's not by any means good. Whether like AC/DC sing, about Highway to Hell. My friends are going to be there too. I'm not going to heaven. I want to. Or Jim Morrison singing, cancel my subscription to the resurrection, send my credentials to the house of detention. I have some friends inside. So it's that question of, questioning it.
Yeah. Well, there is so much to look forward to. And one of the most amazing things, I think, is that first you played Langda, which is, of course, a version of Iago, who's one of the great Shakespearean villains. And now you'll play Raavan, who's one of the great villains of Hindu mythology. What a fascinating character, a man of knowledge. He wasn't just a bad guy. There's just such layering to this character. What can you tell us about himself? How are you? I understand there's a massive physical transformation.
Well, yes, there's a lot of there's. I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
But there is. He's going to make me larger than I am. But again, that might be giving it away. And there's a lot of there'll be some trickery involved. Put it that way. And that sort of thing. But a lot of it is real in the sense that, they wants us to train and everything's just kind of stopped for a while now, but look particularly tough and all that stuff is normal, but that's really not the main thing. The point is he's he's India's kind of Satan. He's
Right.
the demon king. And I guess what drives him, which is what I don't want to give it away, but I was trying to find a way into doing this. And I think that the thing is vanity, he's the personification of vanity. So everything comes from there, everything, the boons that he prays for, the kingdom that he wants, his whole outlook is just incredibly clouded, blind, and vain. He's a monster, and he's strong and fun to play in that sense. But the whole point of the story, in a way, again, psychologically, really is overcoming the monster. That's what the story is about. And it's about, Lord Ram overcoming him. And the stronger he is, the more of an achievement it is for the hero. So, he's dressed up in dazzling clothes, and he's got an array of weapons, and he's got a tremendous amount of knowledge and skill and power. But he's vain, and he says some outrageous things. But it's a big thing to play the main bad guy, right?
It is.
And I'll tell you one thing though. I do have 10 heads at points, which is really one of the cool things.
Saif, I've just got 2 quick questions for you, and then we've got tons and tons of questions from the audience.
Yep.
Tell me, what does it take to find that elusive sweet spot between actor and star?
I don't know if there is a thing anymore. I mean, that's what one has tried to avoid. And I read reviews about my work saying that, I recently, I don't like to play the star. And I see people doing it sometimes, who I'm working with. And I find it a little disturbing because it's not particularly, sometimes even if it's not, honest, it's not the right way of doing it. A star is an actor who's, that distinction is completely gone. I mean, is Meryl Streep a star? I mean, yeah, right?
Yeah.
She is, but she's not like dressed and behaving. I mean, stars have got negative connotations. Yeah, technically a star is someone who's got box office pull and the eye is drawn to, as a personality. But beyond that, when you're on set, then you have to give in to the character and not be starry at all. You have to lose yourself and completely be, and these days there's a trend in towards the normal, what's it called? You play the common man. So you've got to really dissolve. I mean, the idea is not to, I love the sweet spot. And for me, and I'm quite new at this, at being successful at this, because I've spent a long time, as you're aware, floundering and trying to figure out where and how and whatever. But I mean, in places and not in places. But the beautiful moment when you watch yourself on screen, you say, Jesus, that's not me. I can't see me. Like Sartaj Singh at a point, I'm like, I can't see Saif Ali Khan at all, in the second season. I'm like, this is great. Tanhaji in places, I'm like, okay, I just stopped being me. And then there's that horrible moment when you're like, this is me, and there are roles where you lose yourself. And that's what I want to do with every movie. That's what it's about, where you've got to disappear. And hopefully that leads to some kind of longevity and more interesting to watch, because that's the opposite of this, how this conversation started about how sometimes superstars can get trapped in playing a similar thing, right?
Yeah. That's exactly it, Saif. When you become a superstar, you can't disappear. That option doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. And it's great. I mean, you buy an island somewhere and don't worry about it. It's great. Superstars are great too, I mean, it's like, I don't know, maybe some billionaire businessmen have other issues, but who knows? I mean, I don't know what it's like to be like that. I'm very excited being me. I like these issues. Yeah. But it's also a thing, it's a conscious decision to humble yourself in front of the role. I've seen actors not doing it, and it comes from insecurity. It's not only the big guys who are like, no, listen, they want me to. That's different. When Tom Cruise has to be Tom Cruise, that's okay. I'm saying there are times when people say, no, I want to look good. His vanity comes into it.
Vanity.
And they start saying, no, I want to, this is a this shot, and I don't want to, and it's not what I'm here for anymore.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, kind of grown out of that. So I know what it is, but I just don't think it's great.
Yeah. I hear you. Okay, last question from me, and then we'll go to the audience. Dil Chahta Hai, 20 years this year, Saif. 20 years. What is your most enduring memory of that film?
You know, I mean, doing certain scenes, shooting, just how technically proficient everyone was. And they're still not as technically proficient as that crew was. For some reason, you know, maybe it's too intense. A film crew can be should be a very demanding, very frightening, like special forces crack unit, like some of these LA units, like Jesus, you know, because time is money and you've got to move. And like, it was an incredible crew. I mean, Zoya was an assistant. Rima was an assistant. Successful big directors today.
Yeah.
So that's how much, there was a lot of talent around. Nakul doing sound. The sound in that film was amazing. Aamir testing lenses, the Hawk lens and the Kova lens, what we saw updated now. How your face looks better in which lens, camera tests, blah, blah, blah. And then this incredible shooting atmosphere, silence, pin drop silence, all these things. And then traveling to Goa and shooting there and having because they're very cool people, Farhan and Zoya, and they know this country really well. And so we were out to dinner every night because we were young. We could, you know, have a couple of glasses of wine and still be up at 7. And we just got a very good look. And that's something I think throughout my career, I've been lucky that I've seen some amazing places from a very interesting point of view and really had a blast while making the film, apart from acting, is experiencing where we were, you know.
A very good evening to Saif, sir.
Hi.
I just hope you're doing good in these difficult times.
Trying,
My question to you is, sir, do you ever feel the need of being on social media as it's the need of the hour?
No, I don't feel the need. I think if you're interested in doing it, that's great. And I just don't get it. And I get it, but I don't want to. I don't think my life is that interesting. And I don't want to show off. And also the most important thing is, I like feeling things. You know, you can either shoot something or you can experience it. And so many times, I mean, half my family is into social media, and we're sitting around having a lovely time. And someone says, "Hey, iska photo lete hai, isko yahan baitho," and it just ruins the moment. And the kids don't like it, and I don't like it. So I'm like a kid there. And that's about Instagram and things. Even though I take a lot of pictures, I could easily be on Instagram and just put it on. I also don't like what's happening, man. I don't know what's happening, but there's just too much negativity on so many social media platforms. That why would you want to get into that? I want to keep my head straight, do my work, come home, chill. I want to get into an argument with a bunch of crazy people. You know? Of course, there's some lovely fans out there, but social media is not something that interests me.
Hi, sir. Big fan.
Hi.
One of my favorite roles of yours is, we talked about bad guys, and one of my favorite roles of yours is Karan from Hum Tum, right? And
Right.
Coming to my question, is it harder for you to play a comedic character or a darker character? Because actors have been asked this question, they have differing opinions on it. So what's your take on it?
I mean, you know, I think it depends what you're doing. And there's so many various types of effective acting. Like some comedies are not, they're just situational. You're trying to be really serious and that's what's funny. Some are physical comedies that require you to slip on a banana peel and then, you know, stammer and say, you know, I don't know, that can be hard. So it's kind of hard to make people laugh for people who can't do it very well. I've always enjoyed comedy. I thought I have a good sense of timing. It's been a long time since I've done a good comedy. But I like it. And I think I can do it okay. But I think it's a little easier playing bad guys for me because I'm more in tune with my darker side. I guess. I don't know. You know?
And so just one more. What's the greatest piece of advice a co-star has given you on set?
I can't remember. Oh, yeah. Maybe years and years and years ago in my first movie, I was having trouble with the dialogue. And I wasn't able to say it properly. And Aamir Khan said to me that if you clench your teeth and try and say the same dialogue with your teeth clenched, when you open your mouth, you will be clearer. So, if you say, what's your name?
Joshua.
Joshua, tumko samajh mein aaya? Joshua, tumko samajh mein aaya? It just helps you, but with words you can't pronounce, not Joshua. I can't think of one word right now, but it just helps you in answer. So that was one example. Normally co-stars are, not the most helpful. They just want to do their thing. I'm not very helpful to my co-star. I like jaldi karo yaar. No, I'm kidding.
So my question to you is that if given a choice, which grey character from one of the iconic Hollywood movies would you prefer recreating in Bollywood and why?
It'll have to be some kind of tragic figure, maybe like Anakin Skywalker or Alan Delon and Michael Corleone, Godfather. That's something like cool, good-looking, dangerous mafia type. Scarface? Scarface. Without a doubt.
Saif, thank you so much. And it's been lovely, lovely having you. Thank you everyone for joining us. And I hope we get to be, we get to see you on screen soon. And
yes, let's do another interview.
Yes.